Hi, everybody. We're back today with another episode of Howie's Hometown Heroes, where we feature business owners, entrepreneurs, and community members who are doing extraordinary, amazing things right there in their own community. Today, I'm here with my good friend Craig Stevens. He lives in Franklin, Tennessee, a little suburb of Nashville. A great little place, he says. I'm looking forward to visit there sometime. It'll be a lot of fun. Now, his specialty is not what we're going to talk about, but his specialty is an expert in industrial systems engineering and project management. That is a freaking mouthful. He's taught at the colleges and graduate level all over the place, helps big companies out getting their act together and getting processes together and making sure they're very efficient, that kind of stuff too. That's his day job. What he does for fun and his real passion, though, is painting and other stuff. And actually, let me back up a second. He's created these models for the industrial systems and stuff. Do you have that in the background there? Or let's see if we can show
Sure.
something.
Let me go ahead and I'll change my background.
Change the background, because this I think is pretty fascinating.
So
there
this is kind of what I spent. Oh, I don't know. I spent 40 years putting this together. So the mission was to describe how a company goes through change and to document it. So as I worked for about 100 different organizations in every different type of industry you can think of as a consultant. And at the same time, I moonlighted while teaching at different universities and for Paget Thompson and American Management Association and our own company, but for Department of Energy, Department of Defense, NASA, and all over the place. But in that time, I discovered that, how change happens. So if I were to look down, let's see, I'm going to do like the weather person.
Yeah.
There's primary drivers of change. And those primary, it's harder, harder than it looks. Those weather people really have to be professional. So there's three different ways. I guess I go over here. Three different ways that change happens comes to you. And one is continuous improvement. That's making something better that you already have. Great. Design thinking would be kind of a category, and that would be creating something new that doesn't exist before. Yeah. And then strategy, that might be a major step change you're going through. And everything else that happens to you could be a regulation or a president says you have to do it, or something blew up in the factory floor and you got to fix it. And that's where the projects come from. There's three types of change. One is that configuration control, that configuration management. The other is just making that thing happen, that technical change happen. That's usually called project management, sometimes agile or predictive. And then the other thing is transitional management, getting the operations people to go along with the change. So now the change goes through their secondary change. Let's see, where's my finger? There it is. Secondary changes. This is really hard for me. I've never done this before. So that's model number 9. So everything you change will change other things. It kind of acts like a pinball machine. Yeah. Deliver that change, it bounces around your organization. Yeah. Then it goes into systems thinking. Anyway, that's it in a nutshell.
And that's why you make the big bucks, because you can put all that together.
I'm always struggling for cash flow. So if anybody wants me to show you how to do this, this is where I can make the biggest impact in somebody's company.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really crazy how all those things, are you needed or have to be identified to make something happen. Really,
well, it's continuous. This is going to happen in your organization, whether you know it or not. If you have a mature organization. If you don't, this is where all your stuff's going to break down.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
And this is where you're not going to get results of the change you want unless you know this kind of stuff.
Unless you are paying attention to all these different moving parts. Oh, pretty cool.
And that's what a systems engineer does. Puts all those systems together.
So this is really great, Craig, to explain that. And anybody who wants to know any more detail about that, call Craig. Don't ask me, because I'm not here for that. But which is really cool. I thought it was really cool. So let's do I think the next step, though. So what you told me about is not just these models that you've created over your professional career. We really got into painting, and here's a really, and this is what fascinates me. First of all, the project management stuff is pretty fascinating too, because I always like the way things go together and how one thing affects another. I think that's really interesting and how that kind of works. But here's something totally different. I think you need another, like one side of your brain does one thing and the other side does something else, you know?
Yeah.
So,
well, as an engineer, you should be creative, right?
Yeah.
You should figure out what the scientists are doing and how to make a product out of that, or how
Yeah.
to make that work, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess it's not that big a push to say that there should be an artistic side to an engineer,
Okay.
maybe. So, but I thought I was going to be an artist before I thought I was going to be an engineer.
Actually, I was going to ask that actually.
Yeah.
What drove you, or where did all this, the art and the engineering stuff come from? So what's your background and what'd you do in school?
So I kind of grew up in Holiday Inns. My mom and dad were Holiday Inn innkeepers.
Oh.
And so their job was go from Holiday Inn to Holiday Inn, bring it up to standards. So continuous improvement was part of my life from age 6.
Interesting.
I literally lived in a Holiday Inn from age 6 on. And so that's kind of how I got engineering, but I was paying my way through school as an artist. And so I was painting logos of oil companies and things like that and selling it to the oil companies. But so anyway, then I stopped. For 20 years, I became an engineer and I didn't paint another thing. And then I said, I wrote a book to describe the 7 attributes of excellent management. And I wrote a kind of fictional case study. And the fictional case study was all about this, the 7 attributes of excellent management. So when I started writing that, I said, well, I used to paint. Maybe I can paint the cover. Maybe I can illustrate the book. And
Nice.
so I started painting again. And then that led into what I'm known for is Flags of America artist.
Yeah, this is impressive.
And all the flags and the paintings, there's words in the background, and the words in the background mean different things. This was the very first painting I ever did with words in the background.
Oh.
And this one is called Our Civil Rights, because the background, it has the amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights to Constitution. Yeah. And so that was the first one. And the thought behind this one is, when I was a child, everybody respected the flag. It was in a pole in concrete, and the flag was really taken care of.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's not really what we have anymore. We're going through a time of unrest. So that was the second flag. So the first flag represents the past.
Yeah.
This flag represents where we are today. It's a battle flag.
Yeah.
The flags in my paintings represent people, not the government. So the splits in the flag represent splits between we the people. And so that's what that is. And this flag, the threads of this flag, they're written words of division, like hate and, socialism.
Is that painted in the red and the white
threads.
Areas?
Yeah, it's painted into the red threads because they're words of division. They're blood red. Okay. And so that was the second flag I ever did. And the third flag I ever did was, well, how do you get out of that? And so that one has the words of the founding fathers and Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy and Reagan, and there's words of unity, how to get back. And you see, it's kind of a rally flag. Because it just doesn't happen. It takes real work. It takes, people working to make that happen. And then the words in the background are just that. Cool. If I share my screen, I can show you some more ones if you'd like me to do that.
Sure, let's put them out there.
All right, let me share my screen. And so this is I'm going to show the website because that's where all the flags are.
Okay.
Or most of the flags when I get to it. So you see the first 3 at the top. Well, now the ones below that getting to a little bit more complications, right? So you can see this, hopefully you can see my cursor floating around. So if I blow that one up, you'll see that this is the MIA heroes, missing in action heroes. And this is just representing those people still missing in action from Vietnam only.
Okay.
And it's just last names on it. And my it's taking a little time, but you can barely see that.
Yeah.
But that's how many names there are.
Wow.
And this is a large flag. This painting is on display with the MIA group that tours the country. And So they're touring the country.
How many
right
names
now.
are on there?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, and it goes around the edges too, because it's a thick canvas.
Oh,
It's a wraparound
Wrap it.
gallery wrap canvas, and so there's names all around the
Wow.
edges too. And so I don't know. I kind of lose track.
mhm.
I don't necessarily think about the numbers, and I tell people, because people sometimes go in and look for people they know. Like
Oh,
this
sure.
one, is just the Marine Corps, and I'm showing you. This one is just the names of the Marines who died since 9/11 in the background,
Oh,
and it goes around the edges and everything else.
wow.
All the Marines, and they're not. I mean, it represents all the Marines because there's more than can fit on that canvas.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of the Army, this is a story I'll tell you related to the Army. The Army has more than the Marines, and so the Army names also overflow onto the Air Force canvas because there's some room, and the Marines had more than second most.
Mhm.
But if you look closely, you can read the first name up here is Ryan Knauss. Ryan Knauss was the last soldier who died in Afghanistan during the botched pullout.
Oh,
And he is my older son and daughter's first cousin.
wow.
And they were real close,
Mm.
but this is all names of the Army who died since 9/11.
Mhm.
My goal with this is to honor every fallen hero with, so this is a long-term goal,
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And so we're giving an example how I'm doing that is I'm doing it this way. The military will take a lot longer, and I don't know if I'll ever finish. But the what I'm doing with the with the states is I'm creating a flag for every state, and in the background of all those flags are all the fallen police officers from that state.
From that state. Mm.
Yeah. So this one has the fallen police officers from Tennessee. So you see the American flag and the state flag.
Mhm.
And if you go a little further, you can see there's Texas and the website got to catch up with me. But if we looked at the other states, there's Texas and there's Texas. You see the Alamo in the background probably. And then there's Colorado, North Carolina. So I'll give you an idea, the North Carolina flag is hanging in the North Carolina Police Academy. When I finish with the police, I'll do the firefighters. And I'll do other first responders. So that's kind of what that's the mission we're trying to document. This one is the Ukrainian flag, and in the background's the names of the civilians who died, family names of civilians who died in the Russian-Ukrainian war going on now. And I'm going to do one for Israel, and I got one for Maui, and I got one for, and there's other events in history. So this one's hanging at the Ukrainian embassy in the U.S. And so this one, we'll look at these two because this is where the storybooks come in. I'm writing a story for every one of these, and I'll start with showing you the flag. So the painting. So this one is meant to draw emotion. So you can tell by the Confederate flag, it draws emotion, right? But it's designed to draw people into the meaning. Here, the Union flag with the right number of stars is defending the Underground Railroad route. And so this is the story of the Underground Railroad. It's the story of those heroes who manned the Underground Railroad and all the heroes that brought the Civil War to the end, right? So in the background, there's the names of the people who ran the Underground Railroads. Right below that, there's the Black Medal of Honor winners. Right below that are Black regiments. Right below that are all the battles the Black regiments fought in the Civil War. But you can see a faint routes of the Underground Railroad. Yeah. So, the slaves were escaping from the South through these routes. And these people at the top were the ones that put their life online, and their homes online, and their
Mhm.
families in danger by helping escape slaves.
Mm.
And then the rest is the story. So this was done for Black History Month last year or year before, I can't remember. And then what we did with that, we created that into a children's book. And the children's book, so our goal is to tell the hard stories, right? So not just the pretty stories, but the ones that are hard, like, slavery, the
Yeah.
Underground Railroad,
Yeah.
and the heroes.
Yeah.
And so here we see Harriet Tubman, who manned the Underground Railroad. Her nickname was Moses, her code name. And then it just kind of a little story for the children to read. It
Mhm.
talks about hiding slaves, out, and the
Oh,
people who
right,
did
right, right.
that. And then it talked about the journey, and then it goes in. They're all Christ-centered, so they're all talking about the lessons you can learn from that.
Mhm.
And then it goes from the children's book into the story, the activities that the parents can do with the children. So this one's titled Standing Up for What is Right and Just. This one's Faith and Trust in God. This one's Unity. This one's Courage in Face of Adversity. And this is Compassion and Empathy. And so, it's just activities that parents can do with the children. This one's designed for elementary school kids. And then the last part of the story is just for the adults, just for the parents. And it tells the story of the painting, and it tells the stories of the heroes on their Underground Railroad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the Black regiments, list those.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it's really cool. And we're doing one for every painting I have. So what I do is I give these away. And what people do to help me is they help sponsor it, because these flags, these paintings are valued at somewhere of around $10,000 each.
I bet.
So I give them away and put in a public place. We get sponsors to help pay some of my expenses. They don't usually pay the $10,000, but they may pay a couple $1,000, right?
Yeah.
And then we write children's books to help inform people. But when you look at it, so I'll give you an example of one, the reason I do this. So this is a flag called the Thin Blue Line. And prints are hanging in different police departments. So our goal is to put one of these in one print in every single police department, because it honors the police.
Sure.
This is the story of the 2020 riots. So you see in the threads, you can see the names of cities where the riots were taking place. And you heard about this day in, day out
Yeah.
in the news.
Yeah.
But you didn't hear this story.
Yeah.
18 months of fallen police officers' names in the background. Only 18 months. And so it goes all the way around the edges. Now there's a couple hundred around the edges.
Wow.
And then it goes all the way through here. And the whole purpose of this is just to show you what reality is, what life looks like. This is to show you that, there's a lot of sacrifice that takes place in order to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And so that's the purpose of these paintings, to show the sacrifice, to honor the fallen police officers, firefighters, military.
So now, I mean, I can feel your passion about, American history and all the first responders and military and police and all the people who really protect us, kind of moving forward. How does that, do you rely on other volunteers or historians, or how do you get some of this background stuff?
I do it all myself. And well, when I say that, I have a partner in crime, and she publishes books, and she is in North Carolina, and we talk each other a few times a week, but I've seen her maybe once in person,
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, but she and I will come up with an idea. I will do it, and she will, and then I'll write the book, get it started. and she'll go in and clean it up and make it
Mhm.
readable, more
Mhm.
readable.
Mhm.
Then she'll publish it and put it in right formats and stuff like that. But there's all kinds of other things that we do. Like in the background here is one of the landscapes I did
Oh, nice.
as an example. It doesn't look anything like the other stuff, right? And give you again, I'll show you a couple more, and then this one's hanging
Mhm.
at the Metro Police Department Domestic Violence Center. So when I did this for them, I thought about, well, when I was a child and I was going through stressful times, where would I want to be?
Wow.
Probably on a little rowboat
Yeah.
fishing. You see a
Yeah.
little, let's see, there's a bobber right
Yeah. Yeah. There you
there.
go. Right. Right. Right.
And so, and there's another one on this side. So I had a friend with me, if I was a
Oh, sure.
child. Somewhere over here, there's another bobber.
There
There's
you
a
go.
bobber right
Right
there.
there. Yeah.
And so that would be an example, and then I do different,
Oh,
different
that's really nice too.
scenes.
Yeah. 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 Almost looks
Yeah.
like a not Norman Rockwell, but one of those kind of a New Englandy kind of looks. Yeah.
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 So
Nice.
it's kind of
Yeah.
Virginia like. Then
Okay.
I do Nashville
One,
and uh
one.
and this is an example of a painting I did that reminds me of growing up on a farm,
Mhm.
because I would be sitting under this tree right here, eating a dill pickle when my dad was out bush hogging the field across the fence. But that's kind of what I do, and
Wow.
try to put it all in books
That is a a
and
tremendous endeavor. Oh, it's like
history. Yeah,
well,
history.
in history.
Yeah, some just trying to document history for
Yeah.
people who will never learn history. And for example, um, the one related to the Declaration of Independence, the signers of the Declaration of Independence, they lost everything. They
Yeah.
lost family, lost
Right.
everything.
Right. Right.
And then this is kind of cool. I'll show you this picture. This
Ooh.
was one I did at an elementary school, and 500 kids helped paint their mascot. So I held their hands, and they had dabs all over that thing, and it turned out to be their mascot. I have that.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Very
there's
cool. Very cool.
one of the red tails. That's a Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I do, I guess.
Wow. That is certainly keeping you busy. I don't know how you have time for systems engineering and project management with doing all these paintings. And
Yeah, and
I
the
won't tell your
books are.
boss though. I won't tell your boss.
Yeah, well, I'm the boss. I'm the boss of me.
Okay.
But
So,
yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. There's harvest field.
so now you got. Well, I mean, I could feel that. Like I've said, the patriotism and drive you have to kind of do all these things. And talk about big, hairy, audacious goal. It could be like 50 people couldn't do this in a lifetime. But I got to give you a lot of credit for really going down this road and trying to help people out. And I'm sure that the people in the police stations or the office buildings where these things are hanging are,
Yeah.
pretty proud of those
Yeah.
pictures.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help parents and grandparents
Mhm.
tell the stories of the United States, the world.
Mhm.
And so our goal is to put the originals in public places,
Yeah.
right? But put all the prints into the police departments or the Marine barracks or
Yeah.
wherever it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so that's where we need help, because that way, each print costs $20 to print it. so, and then to scan one of these, that's $150, right?
Okay.
And so it's so all the times that we do this, people who buy it help pay for the
Pay for
next
that kind
one,
of stuff.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the people who just donate help us to make prints and send them to
Mhm.
police
Mhm.
officers, that kind
Well,
of thing.
we'll put some links in the comments below about how people can help out or do some stuff in their particular town. If you've done a painting for I'll ask, have you done a painting for New York?
Yeah, I mean, all of these paintings have New York in the background.
Oh, right, there you go.
But to give you the history of these, is that painting of New York, the Twin Towers, I call it 9/10, 9/11.
I'm sure.
But I painted the original with palette knife, and then I scanned it. Then I had those printed on clay canvases. Canvases, that's kind of print on canvas. And then I painted on top of it and put the names on top of the
Oh,
prints. So the original is just New York, and then each one of these
yeah.
are originals because there's paint on top of New York,
Oh, okay.
on that printing of New York.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so it's a long process. The original one was the actual New York scene, and then on top of that, I painted the New York flag,
Yeah.
and on top of that, I painted use kind of paint pens, and I wrote the first half of those names. I'm trying to point to my monitor. So the first half of the names up about that far,
Yeah.
those that died because of 9/11, during 9/11. The rest of them have died from a 9/11 after 9/11
Afterwards.
from complications. Like they're still dying today
So
from
yeah, so
cancers.
you got to redo the painting, add people, add names or something.
No, I thought about, I'll never be finished with say, if I do all the names of the police officers who died in Tennessee, there's more that will come, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so it's a representation of them all. They're not in alphabetical order because I want anybody to go in and find the names. I
Yeah.
want them to go in and just say it's a representation of everybody.
Yeah.
And plus, in case I miss one, I don't want you to feel left out, because you're in there in thought, and
Sure.
you might be around the edges, so you might not see it in the print. And the other thing is there's going to be more. And so probably when I finish the first round, I might go back and say all have died in 2050 or whatever year that is. But I actually, if I had enough sponsors, I could do it all in 1 year.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I can, it takes me about 2 weeks to do one of the paintings.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I could do 50 in a year easy, and I've already got done 10. Give you an idea.
Too bad you need a job to pay the bills. Huh?
Yeah, too bad. It would be great. But that's part of the homeschooling too, is that the homeschooling, we're gamifying all of this. So not only do you get online training with it, it's going to be gamified, where there's a point system and you keep score and trying to hit those dopamine buttons, so keep wanting to play. And so we figure if we can create a gamified training for homeschoolers, then that would be a good way to teach a little bit of history.
Yeah. Very good. Well, if we have some ways to keep in touch with you, I mean, we'll put some links and stuff so everybody can keep in touch with you and get some of that. I know a lot of families who homeschool their kids, and I'm sure this would be a great addition to kind of what their curriculum.
Well, and then a lot of I showed the books. I took the books around to a vet fest, a veterans festival, and I kept having to try to grab the books away from people, because people wanted to take the ones as I had for samples as the book.
Sure.
Right, because once you see it, you can see how, as a grandparent or as an aunt or as an uncle or as a parent, you can use that to help teach your kids something about Black history or American Indian history or something, or we're doing Maui, we're doing we'll do one for Israel, what's going on now. And so it just helped teach history, and they're the hard lessons. I mean, trafficking, how to keep yourself and your children safe during trafficking. That's not an easy subject.
Not an easy thing to talk about.
No. But we don't make them scary. We just make them so that, make sure you're, with the child we're talking about, make sure that you don't accept candy, and you let everybody know where you are, and you're going in a buddy system so that you have people who, you're not wandering off by yourself and things like that. And we're just trying to make it, we're a friendly old owl, this case is kind of teaching kids how to be safe and as they're walking through the park, that kind of thing.
Very good. Very good. Well, Craig, this has really been awesome. I really learned a lot about not only you and the painting and project management a little bit, but then also about history that I, clearly I didn't learn any of this stuff. And I'm glad you're bringing it forth to everybody who can sort of watch this and get the books for their kids. Even if they don't homeschool their kids, at least learn something from, like you were saying, grandparents to children. I think that'd be a great way to
Yeah,
put that together.
something you can really kind of bond with your children and
Right,
teach them a nice
exactly.
lesson.
Exactly. Very cool, very cool. All right, so everybody, if you know anyone who is as passionate about something as Craig is, let us know, and we'll kind of get him on the show. This has really been a fascinating chat, a little different than some of the usual things I do, but I think this is one of the awesomest videos I've done for sure. So just remember that if it's your business, your family, or your community organization, remember, it's money that make those gears keep turning. Make sure your money is working for you in the most optimal way it can. So, thanks for being here, Craig. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.